Did you know that your child's brain is being shaped right now by habits you don't even realize you have? It's not yelling. It's not spanking. It's not explicit punishment. It's silent gestures, automatic words, invisible patterns that you inherited and now pass on unconsciously. And the most disturbing part, these habits are literally altering your child's neural architecture. They are sculpting brain connections that will define how your child processes emotions, builds relationships, and perceives themselves in the world for the next 50 years. Carl Jung spent decades investigating how unconscious patterns are transmitted from one generation to the next. He discovered that we don't need obvious traumatic events to create deep wounds in a child's psyche. Subtle repetitions are enough. Loaded silences, unspoken expectations. The child absorbs everything. Every micro-expression on your face. Every disguised tone of voice. Every repressed emotion you think you've hidden so well. And the child's brain, this plastic and receptive mass in the first years of life, registers these patterns as absolute truths about itself and the world. You are not just creating memories. You are building neural circuits. Most parents believe they are doing the best they can, and they are. But the best you can do, when contaminated by unconscious patterns, still has consequences. It still passes on shadows. It still shapes brains in ways you would never consciously choose. There are 4 silent parenting habits that harm your child's brain in ways that neuroscience and depth psychology are only now beginning to fully understand. 4 patterns that seem harmless, that seem normal, that the whole of society practices and validates, but that leave deep marks on the brain's structure during childhood. The first habit has to do with how you respond to your child's emotions. The second is linked to the kind of presence you offer, even when you are physically right beside them. The third will shock you because it's something you probably do every day thinking you're helping. And the fourth is so subtle it goes unnoticed, but it erodes the foundation of a child's self-esteem from the inside out. Jung discovered something fundamental about the human psyche. What we don't make conscious controls us. And when parents live on autopilot, repeating inherited patterns without question, it's the children who pay the neurological price. Because a child's brain doesn't distinguish between intention and impact. It just absorbs. It just records. It just builds its internal reality from what it receives. You can love your child deeply and still harm their brain development through unconscious habits. This is the hardest truth of conscious parenting. But it is also the gateway to transformation. Because the moment you recognize the pattern, you gain the power to break it. The moment you see the silent habit, it ceases to be invisible. And a parental brain that awakens is the only chance a child's brain has to develop free from generational chains. So take a deep breath. What you are about to hear may be unsettling. It may be confrontational. It may make you see yourself in uncomfortable ways. But this discomfort is the price of consciousness. And consciousness is the greatest gift you can give to your child's brain. Before I reveal the 4 habits, you need to face yourself. Because right now, as you listen to these words, your brain is already trying to defend itself. It's already looking for exceptions. It's already saying, this doesn't apply to me. But it does apply. How many times have you told your child to stop crying when really they just needed to be seen? How many times have you offered quick fixes to silence an emotion, instead of allowing it to exist? How many times were you in the same room as your child, but your mind was miles away, lost in your phone, your worries, your endless to-do list? How many times have you praised your child for the result, but ignored the effort, the attempt, the courage to try? How many times have you compared, even subtly, your child to other children, planting the seed of inadequacy in the fertile soil of their psyche? You don't do it out of malice. You do it because that's how it was done to you. You do it because the whole of society validates these patterns. You do it because no one ever taught you another way. But your child's brain doesn't care about your intentions. It only registers the impact. Neuroplasticity. That's the word that changes everything. A child's brain is under constant construction. Every repeated experience strengthens a neural connection. Every emotional pattern experienced becomes a preferred pathway in brain processing. If a child learns that their emotions bother their parents, their brain builds circuits for emotional repression. If a child learns they are only valued when they perform, their brain associates love with productivity. If a child feels physical presence but emotional absence, their brain encodes loneliness even in company. If a child is constantly compared, their brain develops patterns of relentless self-criticism. And all of this happens in silence, without drama, without obvious traumatic events, just in the daily repetition of unconscious parenting habits. Jung called these complexes automated emotional patterns that form in childhood and then command our adult lives without us realizing it. And the tragedy is that you probably carry the same complexes your parents passed on to you. And now, without realizing it, you are passing versions of them onto your child. The generational chain of silent brain wounds. But here is the liberating truth. You have the power to break this chain, not through perfection, not by never making mistakes, not by becoming a robotic parent who controls every word and gesture, but through consciousness, by looking at your own patterns with brutal honesty, by recognizing when you are repeating instead of choosing, by realizing that every moment with your child is an opportunity to build healthy neural circuits or reinforce wounded ones. The child before you is not a blank slate, but they are not predetermined either. Their brain is plastic, responsive, capable of reorganizing itself based on the experiences you provide. So the question is not, have you made mistakes? The question is, are you willing to look at them? Are you willing to become conscious of the silent habits that are shaping your child's brain right now? Because the 4 habits you are about to discover are not abstract. They are not theoretical. They are not about other families. They are about you. They are about today. They are about the next interaction you will have with your child. And that interaction can be different if you choose consciousness over autopilot. Before we dive into the 4 habits, you need to understand how they work on the deepest level. Jung discovered that the human psyche operates in layers. The conscious surface is just a fraction of what truly moves us. Beneath it lies a vast territory of unconscious patterns, repressed memories, and inherited expectations. And in the parent-child relationship, these 2 levels are in constant dialogue. You can consciously want the best for your child. You can genuinely love them. You can have all the good intentions in the world. But if your unconscious patterns have not been examined, they leak out. They express themselves. They shape the child in ways you would never consciously choose. Think of a child's brain as living clay. Not inert clay, but clay that responds, adapts, and molds itself in real time to the experiences it receives. In the first years of life, this clay is extraordinarily malleable. Every repeated emotional experience leaves an impression. Every relational pattern becomes structure. And most fascinatingly, a child's brain is especially tuned to the brains of its caregivers. Mirror neurons, emotional resonance systems. The child doesn't just observe you. They literally feel what you feel even when you try to hide it. If you are anxious, their brain registers danger. If you are emotionally absent, their brain registers abandonment. If you are critical, their brain registers inadequacy. And these registrations are not thoughts. They are neural connections. They are brain activation patterns that become automatic. The child does not consciously decide, I will repress my emotions because they bother my parents. Their brain simply learns through repetition that expressing emotion generates parental discomfort, and so it builds circuits of emotional suppression as a relational survival mechanism. All of this happens below the level of language, below consciousness, in the territory of the body, of sensation, of the ingrained pattern, and that is exactly why silent parenting habits are so dangerous. They operate on the same frequency. They are not explicit. They don't come with warnings. They just repeat day after day until they become the child's neural reality. Jung used the metaphor of the shadow. Everything we reject, repress, or fail to integrate in ourselves becomes the shadow. And the shadow doesn't disappear. It gets projected, especially onto the most vulnerable, especially onto our children. If you never learn to deal with your own emotions, you will not be able to teach your child how to deal with theirs. If you were raised to believe that love must be earned through performance, you will unconsciously transmit that belief. If you grew up in an environment where emotional presence was rare, you will struggle to offer it, even when you are physically present. And your child's brain will absorb all of this, not as concepts but as lived experience, as constructed reality, as neural structure. The good news, neuroplasticity works both ways. Just as harmful patterns can be ingrained, healthy patterns can be cultivated. Just as circuits of fear can be strengthened, circuits of safety can be built. But this requires something radical from you. to be willing to look at your own silent habits with relentless courage, because you cannot change what you cannot see. And the 4 habits that follow are hidden exactly where you least expect them, in the normality of everyday life. The first silent habit that harms your child's brain is emotional invalidation disguised as comfort. Sound familiar? Your child cries. You immediately say, "You don't need to cry. It's okay. It was nothing." Your child expresses fear. You respond, "There's no need to be scared. That's silly." Your child shows frustration. You interrupt, "Calm down, there's no need to get like that." You think you are helping. You think you are teaching resilience. You think you are protecting your child from sinking into emotion. But you are not. You are teaching their brain that their emotions are invalid, that what they feel is not real, that expressing what is going on inside is inappropriate. And neurologically, this has devastating consequences. When an emotion arises and is immediately dismissed, the child's brain doesn't learn to process it. It learns to suppress it. And chronic emotional suppression warps the ability to regulate emotions for the rest of their life. The brain needs to feel to integrate. It needs to name to process. It needs to express to release. But when you interrupt this natural process with seemingly harmless phrases, you are literally preventing the healthy development of the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for mature emotional regulation. Jung understood this deeply. He knew that repressed emotions don't disappear. They accumulate in the shadow. They become complexes. They leak out in distorted ways years later. That adult who explodes for seemingly small reasons, their childhood brain was likely trained to suppress instead of process. That person who cannot access their emotions, who lives in a state of numbness, they probably heard 1,000 times, "You don't need to cry. What should you do instead?" Validate, name, allow. Your child cries. You say, "I see that you're sad. It's okay to feel sad. I'm here with you." Your child expresses fear. You respond, "You're feeling scared. That feeling is real. Let's breathe together." Your child shows frustration. You welcome it. You're frustrated because this didn't turn out how you wanted. It really is hard. It's okay to feel that. See the difference? You are not denying the emotion. You are acknowledging it. And emotional acknowledgement builds healthy neural circuits for regulation. The child learns, "My emotions are valid. I can feel them without falling apart. My parents see me even when I'm in discomfort." And that changes everything in the developing brain. The second silent habit is physical presence with emotional absence. You are in the same room. You are technically available, but your gaze is empty. Your mind is miles away. Your child talks. You respond with automatic sounds. Uh-huh. Oh, that's nice. But you are not really listening. You are not really present. You are just occupying physical space while your attention is fragmented in 1,000 directions. And a child's brain detects this immediately. Young children have an almost supernatural ability to sense true presence versus feigned presence. And when they repeatedly sense emotional absence, their brain encodes a devastating message. I am not important enough to capture my parents' full attention. Neurologically, this impacts the development of secure attachment. The child learns that relationships are places of loneliness. That connection is superficial. That they need to perform in increasingly intense ways to be truly seen. And then the attention-seeking behaviors begin. The tantrums, the seemingly irrational demands. But they are not irrational. They are desperate attempts by the child's brain to reclaim genuine emotional presence. Jung would call this an archetypal hunger. The child isn't being spoiled. They are starving for something their brain needs to develop healthily, mindful attention and true emotional presence. And you don't need to be available 24 hours a day. You don't need to abandon your life. But in the moments you choose to be with your child, be truly there, eye to eye, mind present, heart open. 5 minutes of true presence build more healthy neural circuits than 5 hours of distracted presence. Now we come to the third silent habit. And this one will shock you because you probably do it believing you are being a good parent. The third habit is praise conditioned on performance. Every time you say, "Good job, you got a high grade." Every time you praise only the result, ignoring the effort. Every time your approval is tied to measurable achievements. You are teaching your child's brain that they are only valuable when they produce. And this is neurologically devastating. The developing child's brain desperately needs one message. You are valuable for existing, not for what you do, not for what you achieve, but simply for being who you are. When this message doesn't come, or when it only comes accompanied by performance, the brain builds circuits of conditional self-worth. The child learns, I need to earn love, I need to win approval, I need to be perfect to be accepted. And then comes performance anxiety, paralyzing procrastination, perfectionism that eats you up from the inside, a deep fear of failing because failure means being worthless. Jung saw this clearly in the adults he treated. Brilliant people, successful on the outside but empty on the inside. Because their true self, their authentic essence, was never seen or valued. Only the performing persona was applauded. And this pattern starts right here, in the micro-interactions of daily life where well-intentioned parents praise results and ignore the being. Neurologically, this has measurable consequences. Neuroscience studies show that children who receive performance-focused praise develop greater activation in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, when facing challenges, because their brains have learned to associate trying with the risk of rejection. Meanwhile, children who receive unconditional recognition develop greater activation in the prefrontal cortex, the region for regulation and adaptive thinking, because their brains know that making a mistake does not threaten their fundamental worth. Do you want your child to be brave, to try new things, to take creative risks? Then stop praising them only when they get it right. Start seeing the effort, the courage to try, the persistence in the face of difficulty, the vulnerability of failing and trying again. Say things like, I saw how hard you worked on that. I admire your courage for trying, even though you were scared. I noticed you didn't give up when it got difficult. And most importantly, show your child that they are loved on the days of failure, just as much as on the days of achievement. Because it is in failure that a child's brain most needs to feel that its worth is unconditional. The fourth silent habit is subtle comparison. You don't always do it explicitly. You don't say, why can't you be like your brother? But you do it with your gaze, with your tone, with the differentiated approval you give when the child acts in ways you prefer. You do it when you comment on other children in front of your child. Look how polite so-and-so is. Look how studious she is. You do it when your expectations are shaped by external standards instead of respecting your child's unique development. And the child's brain, that hypersensitive emotional radar, picks up on everything. It registers, I am not enough as I am. I need to be someone else to be fully loved. And then the construction of the false persona begins. The child who performs who they think they should be instead of discovering who they really are. Jung dedicated his life to studying this phenomenon. He saw adults trapped in false personas, living lives that were not their own, chasing goals that were not theirs, desperately trying to be versions of themselves that would please long-absent parents. And it all starts here, in childhood, in the subtle moments of comparison that tell the brain, you are not enough. Neurologically, chronic comparison hyperactivates the brain's self-criticism system. The child develops a relentless inner voice that constantly measures them against impossible standards. And this voice becomes automatic, unconscious, a neural circuit that fires on its own for the rest of their life. Your child doesn't need to be like any other child. They need permission to be fully who they are, with their quirks, their unique rhythm, their own ways of shining. And when you stop comparing, something miraculous happens in their brain. It relaxes. It allows itself to explore. It trusts its own development. Because finally, for the first time, it feels seen and loved exactly as it is. Now you know the 4 silent habits that harm your child's brain. Emotional invalidation disguised as comfort. Physical presence with emotional absence. Praise conditioned on performance. Subtle comparison. And you probably recognized yourself in at least one of them, maybe in all of them. But recognizing the pattern is only the beginning of the journey. The real transformation happens when you commit to the daily practice of conscious parenting. And here is your first tool, the Parental Shadow Journal. Every night before you go to sleep, take a notebook and answer 3 questions with brutal honesty. At what moment today did I invalidate my child's emotion? At what moment today was I physically present but emotionally absent? At what moment today did I condition my love or approval on some performance or behavior? Do not judge yourself. Do not blame yourself. Just observe. Jung understood that bringing the shadow into the light is the first step of integration. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to look. And in the act of looking, something extraordinary happens. The automatic patterns begin to lose their power. What was unconscious becomes conscious, and consciousness is the door to choice. Second tool, the true presence exercise. Once a day for just 10 minutes, practice absolute presence with your child. Turn off your phone. Clear your mind. Look into your child's eyes. Truly listen to what they are saying. Not just the words, but the emotion behind them. Respond with your whole being present. No rush. No agenda. No need to correct, teach, or direct. Just be. Just see. Just allow. In those 10 minutes, your child's brain will receive an experience of deep connection, and that experience will begin to rewrite the neural circuits that were shaped by absence. Third tool, the language of emotional validation. Every time your child expresses an emotion, practice this sequence. First, name the emotion. You are angry. You are sad. You are frustrated. Second, validate it. It makes sense that you feel this way. This emotion is real and important. Third, offer presence. I am here with you. You don't have to deal with this alone. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to rush it. Don't try to minimize it. Just acknowledge, validate, and stay. And watch what happens. Watch how the emotion, when allowed, moves through the child and dissipates naturally. Watch how their brain learns, experience by experience, that feeling is safe. Fourth tool, the revolution of unconditional recognition. Make a sacred commitment. Every week you will tell your child something about who they are, not about what they do. I love your natural curiosity. I admire your kindness to others. I value your unique way of seeing the world. And most importantly, in moments of error, of failure, of difficult behavior, you will find ways to separate the behavior from the essence. I didn't like what you did, but I love you just the same. You made a mistake, but that doesn't change who you are to me. You are having a hard day, and I am still here, seeing you, loving you. These words rebuild neural circuits. They tell the child's brain, my worth is not in my performance. My worth is inherent. And finally, forgive yourself. You will forget. You will revert to old habits. You will invalidate emotions, get distracted, praise results, subtly compare, because these patterns are deeply ingrained in you. They come from generations. But every time you notice, you interrupt the automatic response. Every time you correct yourself, you show your child that growth is possible, that making mistakes is human, that consciousness is a journey, not a destination. Conscious parenting isn't about perfection. It's the daily commitment to look at your own patterns and choose differently, one moment at a time. And in that repeated choice, you are literally rebuilding your child's brain. You have made it this far. And that means something profound. It means you are willing to look, willing to confront yourself, willing to break from the comfort of autopilot and enter the uncomfortable territory of consciousness. Most parents will never make this journey. Most will continue repeating inherited patterns, passing on unexamined shadows, shaping children's brains with silent habits that will never be questioned. But not you. You heard about the 4 habits. You recognized at least one of them in yourself. And in that recognition, something has already changed. You can no longer do these things unconsciously. You can no longer invalidate emotions without realizing it. You can no longer be absent and pretend you are present. You can no longer condition love and believe you are just motivating. You can no longer compare and think it's harmless. Because now you know. And knowledge carries responsibility. But it also carries power. The power to rebuild, to repair, to create new patterns where before there was only repetition. Your child's brain is still under construction. It is still receptive. It can still form healthy neural circuits of emotional regulation, unconditional self-worth, relational security, and authenticity. And you are the architect of this construction. Every moment of genuine emotional validation builds a brick. Every instant of true presence strengthens a beam. Every unconditional recognition of the child's being lays a deep foundation. Jung said that the greatest gift parents can give their children is to work on their own shadows, because unworked shadows always find the children. They always reach them. They always shape them. But shadows illuminated by consciousness lose their power to wound. So this is the journey that begins now, the journey of parenting as a practice of awakening. Not just for your child's sake, but for your own as well. Because by building a healthy child's brain, you are rebuilding wounded parts of your own brain. By offering validation, you learn to validate yourself. By giving presence, you become present with yourself. By loving unconditionally, you free yourself from the conditions that imprisoned your own childhood. The healing is reciprocal. The transformation is mutual. So here is what I ask of you now. Comment which of the 4 habits impacted you the most. Which one did you recognize in yourself? Which one are you committed to transforming first? Like this video if you felt the courage to face yourself. If you are willing to be a conscious parent instead of just an automatic one. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of conscious parenting, where we will explore more hidden patterns, more tools for transformation, more paths to creating healthy and happy children's brains. And share this video with another parent who needs to hear this, because the more parents awaken, the more children grow up free. Your child's brain is being shaped right now, and now you have the power to shape it consciously. The journey is just beginning, and every day with every interaction, with every conscious choice, you are building not just your child's brain, you are building the future of an entire generation. Allow the child to flourish.